Rock climbing in the beginning was a sport for upper middle class men. The women would invite their wives or girlfriends, but wouldn't write about them because it was masculine. But it was okay for them to write about their own experiences. The first recorded account of a woman rock climbing that I found was one of Miss Harmoner. She was the aunt of a priest. She was very adventurous and was the editor of an alpine journal. So it's kind of hard to say how many women actually participated in rock climbing. Gains and Gaps say that a recorded history of women's leisure is virtually non-existent. I did read that the women still wore petticoats and shawls, so they basically wore the same clothes that they would wear every day while they were doing this, but they would sometimes have strings threaded through them so they could adjust the length of their skirts and get out of the way while they were climbing. Rock climbing has become so popular that they have indoor rock climbing gyms, which we all kind of know about now. There are competitions, events, and trips that surround this activity, and women are a big part of these activities. Uh, in the past, you in a section of Games and Gaps women's history, you couldn't find any information on women rock climbers. Now you can't help but see them out there. Thinking about our module on feminism, I don't believe that this was a big feminist movement, getting women to start rock climbing. I think that more or less women just felt they had to prove that they could do it, not necessarily as well as men, but just in general, and they wanted to do it for themselves. Um, it was them setting challenges for themselves, and I see it as maybe liberal feminism and women wanting to have the opportunity to be a part of the action. In the reading, it says that historically women were seen or perceived as the weaker sex, and that anything involving running, throwing, striking, and climbing were more difficult for women than men because of the structure or the way we were built. In fact, women can become strong climbers because we have better strength to weight ratio as well as greater agility and flexibility than most men. In another reading, I found that they said that rock climbing is the only truly gender blind sport. And while most climbers are men, in very few cases, women have actually accomplished what men could not. The example I have is Lynn Hill, and she was the first person, not just woman, to free climb a famously challenging route in Yosemite in 1993. My personal experience with this activity was great, actually. When I walked in the gym and saw all of the women there boxing and biking and climbing, I felt that I was in the right place as far as being a woman and wanting to climb. My size, on the other hand, became a concern because I'm bigger than most of the women I saw there. So this is where my self-image and constraints kick in because you can wear whatever you want that's comfortable to you when you're climbing, and that wasn't a big issue. But trying to get that harness to fit was something else. So as far as the clothing was concerned, I wasn't worried about it. I was just more concerned about actually fitting the harness and what it would look like being squeezed into that thing. I was a little self-conscious. Initially, I didn't participate in this activity because I felt like I would never have time. As a matter of fact, if I didn't have this assignment, I probably wouldn't have done it at all. I also worried about the price. I've never looked into it and researched it, so I always assumed that it was going to be some horrendous amount and I wouldn't be able to afford it. And childcare, while I do have two teenagers, I still have two younger ones, and can't always rely on the big sister and big brother to take over, so that was another thing. So I kind of thought about it and forgot about it all in the same day. It just came and went. I didn't really stress on it. The biggest challenge for me, I felt, was that I was allowed, well, the biggest challenge I felt that I had was allowing myself to do this and being in this crazy harness and relying on my partner to belay me correctly. And that's the person that stands at the bottom that kind of controls how fast you come down and lets the slack on the rope. Yeah, I learned something. Um, and not let me hit the ground. My weight suddenly became a big concern when I had to depend on him to get me back to the ground safely. So I was really kind of freaking out. I really surprised myself though when I got started. I just went right up there and without fear and made it to the top. The key was I didn't ever look down, and even though I was all over the wall and not necessarily staying on the grid that I was supposed to, quote unquote, he said I did pretty good. So, given my ability to actually do this activity and I probably the least fit person around, I can say that this is probably a gender equal activity. Um, the place that I went didn't show any difference to men or women climbers. Everyone was equal there. They even had children there. I would definitely participate in this activity again. The feeling after I did this was I was really excited and I was empowered. I felt great after the whole experience, and I would definitely do it again.